With no football on our screens, I've made a rare dabble into transfer content over the last couple of months, and today I'm dipping my toes into the doubly un-HITC Sevens-like world of transfer speculation. This is unusual ground for me, but basically I've been planning a video on 7 transfers that would make sense this summer, and since they were quite heavily Premier League based, I thought why not go the whole hog and do one for every Premier League club. Now, of course, we don't yet know whether some teams will be in the Champions League or Europa League places next season, or which teams will be relegated to the Championship, which will naturally impact on transfer budgets, requirements, and the calibre of player a club is able to attract. I've tried to juggle all possible eventualities, and also didn't want to just include players that clubs have been heavily linked with. In some rare cases though, the player will already have been linked with the club, and that is sort of unavoidable in a world where there are 3,000 different websites baselessly linking 30,000 players with every club in the Western Hemisphere every day. I'm not appealing for a Blue Peter badge here or anything, but I did actually put some serious consideration into this video, and I don't just mean by playing 5 hours of Football Manager. So I've tried to consider every team's needs, finances, and players from across the globe, some of whom may not be all that familiar to everyone, but I'll try to explain each inclusion. Anyhow, here are my views on one signing that would make sense for every Premier League club this summer. Arsenal. Nathan Ake. One of the first ports of call for Arsenal this summer surely has to be at centre-back, and there are 3 who I consider to be both realistic targets and very beneficial to Mikel Arteta. The first 2 that I thought of were Bundesliga duo Matthias Ginter and Jonathan Tah of Borussia Mönchengladbach and Bayer Leverkusen respectively, but a quick Google shows Arsenal have been linked with both over the last 12 months, so I thought that I'd look elsewhere. Personally, I think Nathan Ake has all the tools to be a top-class centre-back, and although he plays in one of the leakiest defences in the Premier League at Bournemouth, a little like Virgil van Dijk, I think he's someone who could handle the step-up in class from Bournemouth to Arsenal pretty comfortably. Of course, if Bournemouth were to stay in the Premier League, Ake wouldn't come cheap, and the Gunners would probably be better off looking at Ginter and Tah. If the Cherries suffer the indignation of relegation though, I simply cannot see the Dutch international sticking around, and I believe he is better than anything Arsenal have at centre-back right now. Aston Villa. Jake Cooper. Obviously there is a very real possibility that Aston Villa could be back in the Championship next season, should Premier League football return or not, with Dean Smith's men currently down in 19th place at the time of the season suspension, albeit with a game in hand. Fortunately, I have a player who I think would be a realistic signing for Villa as a Premier League team, and even potentially as a Championship club. Standing at over 6'6", Jake Cooper is among the tallest players in the English game at the moment, but he's also among the most accomplished centre-backs in the Championship. Millwall fans have been biting their nails worrying about Cooper departing pretty much since his arrival in 2017, and I think Villa are crying out for a really solid centre-back partner in alongside Tyrone Mings. Bournemouth. Ariane Adeyemi. My first thought for Bournemouth was Leeds United midfielder Calvin Phillips, but realistically I can't see him leaving Leeds United for Bournemouth, especially not if the Cherries end up in a division below Leeds next season. As such, I've gone for another man who brings real energy and strength to the middle of the park, breaking up play and recycling possession, typically while sitting deep. Ariane Adeyemi was actually banned from football for 4 years in 2015 for doping, but that sentence was reduced to 2 years, and Adeyemi has been impressive for Dynamo Zagreb since returning to action in 2017. A few teams might be reluctant to touch Adeyemi, given his priors, but the former Croatian turned North Macedonian international is a talent, and I think he'd add a lot to the Cherries' ranks. Brighton. Nemanja Gudel. Don't ask why, but for some reason I found Brighton possibly the trickiest team to identify a target for, and the man I've gone for is perhaps a little fanciful. Nemanja Gudel only joined Sevilla last summer, but he hasn't been a regular fixture, and he rarely sticks around at anywhere for long. An intelligent and technical playmaker who tends to sit deep in midfield, I think Gudel would suit Graham Potter down to the ground, but attracting him to the Amex may prove to be tricky. Nevertheless, I don't think it's impossible, but if you were looking for a less testing target, I think the Seagulls could do a lot worse than former Liverpool prospect Kevin Stewart, who is another holding midfielder who would fit in nicely with the way in which Potter likes his teams to play. Burnley. Hans Vanaken. I know what you're thinking, don't be stupid Alfie, Sean Dyche only signs players from England, Ireland and Scotland, and for the most part you'd be right. The Burnley boss certainly prefers his signings to be tried and tested in the English game, but he has made the odd exception with the likes of Ruben Hennings and Stephen Defoe. I think it's time for old Shawnee boy to venture a little further afield once more, and there are bargains to be had in Belgium's top flight. Hans Vanaken is among the best players in the division right now, and it is a mystery to me how he still hasn't been snapped up by someone in one of Europe's top 5 leagues. Vanaken isn't the quickest, but he's a seriously intelligent playmaker whose vision and movement are both exceptional. In the last 3 seasons, he has scored 14, 17 and 15 goals from central or attacking midfield, and if there's one thing Burnley lack, it's an extra bit of craft, guile and some goals from central midfield. Chelsea. Alex Grimaldo. Following the lifting of their transfer ban, some expect Chelsea to go mad in the next transfer window. Team finances could surprise a few this summer, but certainly Chelsea must be looking at strikers, centre-backs, left-backs and possibly even goalkeepers. Left-back is the most pressing as far as I'm concerned, and they could do a lot worse than Benfica fullback Alex Grimaldo. Tiny but talented, Grimaldo stands at just 5'5", but the former La Masia star has been outstanding since signing for Benfica in 2016, and I think he could be an affordable and capable answer to Chelsea's problems at left-back. Crystal Palace. Alexandre Mitrovic. This is a very situation-dependent one, since should Fulham win promotion to the Premier League or Crystal Palace get relegated to the Championship, Alexandre Mitrovic would surely see joining Crystal Palace as a sideways or even backwards move. If the Cottagers fail to win promotion and the Eagles stick around though, I think this one makes a lot of sense. Mitrovic is on big money in West London right now, and Palace have shown before that they are willing to splash the cash when they think it is justified. Roy Hodgson's men are desperately short of goals, despite Jordan Ayew's improvements this season, and Mitrovic would be just about guaranteed to hit double figures in that side, as far as I'm concerned. Everton. Jack Grealish. My first thought for Everton was Robin Quaison, who trails only Robert Lewandowski, Timo Werner and Jadon Sancho in the Bundesliga scoring charts this season, but in the end, I've gone for a bit of a curveball. Jack Grealish has been excellent for Aston Villa since Dean Smith came in and appointed him as club captain, and his form in the Premier League this season hasn't taken me remotely by surprise. Grealish's fine form, in contrast to Villa's struggles, has unsurprisingly seen the Englishman linked with moves elsewhere, primarily to Manchester United. However, Grealish isn't squeaky clean. He made headlines for all the wrong reasons during the current lockdown, and that isn't the first time he's blotted his copybook. Given that he won't come cheap at all, I wouldn't be surprised if Manchester United prioritised what they might view as safer alternatives. Should Villa go down though, I simply can't see Grealish sticking around, and Everton are a club with cash to spend who are crying out for someone of Grealish's talent, creativity and age. Leicester City. Steven Bearhouse. Iosi Perez hasn't had a bad first season at Leicester City, but if the Foxes want to remain in the Champions League places next season, Brendan Rodgers may have to look beyond the former Newcastle man. Personally, I think a quality right winger, who could deputise through the middle in Jamie Vardy's absence, should be close to the top of their shopping list, and 3 candidates who came to my mind were Reece Nelson, Eberechi Eze and Steven Bearhouse. I had to pick one for the headline, so in the end, I went with Bearhouse, who tops the Eredivisie scoring charts this season. Primarily a right winger, Bearhouse has bagged 20 plus goals for the second time for Feyenoord this season, and it'd be fascinating to see how he would get on in the Premier League. Liverpool. Fabian Ruiz. It's very difficult to pick a target out for Liverpool, whose primary objective surely just has to be adding depth in key areas, perhaps most paramountly in both fullback positions. In the end though, for all Liverpool's talent in central midfield, I do still think they're lacking real creativity in terms of someone who's really classy on the ball and capable of spotting a pass that others cannot. Napoli sensation Fabian Ruiz wouldn't come cheap, and Liverpool's existing midfielders probably wouldn't be best pleased, but I've gone for him due to the fact that he isn't just an excellent playmaker, but he's also willing to run the hard yards and certainly wouldn't be a passenger in the industrious midfield 3 that Jurgen Klopp likes to play with. Manchester City. Ruben Dias. For me, this one is a no-brainer. Manchester City are crying out for a quality centre-back to come in alongside Aymeric Laporte, and Pep Guardiola likes every one of his players to be comfortable on the ball. Ruben Dias is an excellent centre-back, soon to turn 23, and I believe he's capable of being one of the most accomplished defenders in world football. Big and athletic, Dias reads the game well, he's an excellent man marker, and he distributes the ball really tidily from the back. He's a complete centre-back who wouldn't come cheap, but Man City have deep pockets, and he'd be worth his weight in gold to Pep Guardiola's side. Manchester United. Jadon Sancho. If Arsenal really are keen to cash in on Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, then I think Manchester United could do a lot worse than bring his guaranteed goals to Old Trafford. But although it is incredibly tedious and predictable, I do think Jadon Sancho is just about the ideal signing for Manchester United. The Englishman is likely to become the second most expensive footballer of all time if or when he leaves Borussia Dortmund, and Manchester United are one of few clubs on earth who could afford him. The Red Devils are crying out for a genuinely top-class right winger, and Sancho is most assuredly just that. As I said, I didn't want too many widely reported inclusions in this list, so Sancho is a rare but justifiable exception. Newcastle United. Alexander Lacazette. Steve Bruce is a man who has lived by the mantra, "You are only as good as your centre-forwards," throughout his entire managerial career, and if he still believes that, then Newcastle are really not a very good team at all. Obviously, Newcastle's transfer activity will depend upon both their ownership and managerial situation, but if Steve Bruce is still at the helm, I wouldn't be surprised if he was eyeing up an ambitious swoop for Alexander Lacazette. No, seriously, hear me out. Bruce is a man who loves a centre-forward with a track record in the Premier League, and Newcastle have long had a penchant for Frenchmen. Alexander Lacazette is a man who fits the bill on both fronts, and he's still capable of hitting 20 goals in an injury-free 38-game season, in which he's starting games as the main man up top. Lacazette has been linked with Atletico Madrid, but if that fails to materialise, I don't think a move to St James's Park is as far-fetched as it may first seem. Norwich City. Nemanja Radoja. Norwich City are in the most perilous position of any of the Premier League's relegation-threatened side, so one really has to try and find someone who might be willing to join the Canaries as either a Premier League or Championship club. Nemanja Radoja is the second Serbian holding midfielder in this list, but I can assure you that I am not just acting on commission of a Serbian football agent. Radoja came through the impressive youth ranks at Vojvodina, and he has since played for Celta Vigo and Levante. Norwich fans will tell you they have been found wanting in the centre of midfield this season, and Radoja is someone who reads the game well, puts in a shift every Saturday, and has a bit about him too. Sheffield United. Dominik Livakovic. Sheffield United owe so much of their success over the last 2 seasons to Dean Henderson, who has guarded their goal with such distinction on loan from Manchester United. Keeping hold of him would be the Blades' ideal option between the sticks, but I just don't think that is realistically going to happen. Finding a goalkeeper of similar class will prove challenging and expensive, and there are no guarantees that might suggest Dominik Livakovic would even want to move to Bramall Lane. The Blades' fine form under Chris Wilder will have heightened the calibre of player they can attract to South Yorkshire next season though, and if they're playing European football, I think Croatian international Dominik Livakovic's arm could maybe be twisted. Like Henderson, Livakovic isn't a giant by goalkeeper standards, he's still young, and he has outstanding reflexes. Southampton. Jordi de Wijs. I was racking my brain for a little with Southampton, who I think are crying out for a centre-back above all else. The Saints have previously had success, signing some of the best performing players in the Championship, albeit not yet with Shea Adams, and I think they could look towards England's second tier for a central defender. Former Netherlands under-21 international Jordi de Wijs is one of very few good players left at Hull City, who are ravaged of their star men every transfer window. Following a couple of seasons adjusting to life in England, the 25-year-old is now one of the best centre-backs in the division, and it's no surprise that Hull City's form fell off a cliff after he was injured and both Jared Bowen and Kamil Grosicki were sold. Southampton's last Dutch centre-back was half decent too, and whilst de Wijs isn't quite in that league, I think he could do a good job in the Premier League. Tottenham. Sergej Milinkovic-Savic. I think there are a lot of areas in which Jose Mourinho will want to strengthen at Tottenham over the summer, not least in terms of a centre-forward as backup to Harry Kane, and in both fullback positions where Spurs have often looked weak. Personally though, the signing that seems more Mourinho than any other to me is Sergej Milinkovic-Savic. The Lazio star has long been linked with a move to the Premier League, and at 6'3", he fits the bill in terms of Mourinho midfielders. Milinkovic-Savic is big, he works hard, he's clever with his movement, and as a result, he's highly effective in the final third. It'd take serious investment to get Milinkovic-Savic, the third Serbian midfielder in this list, out of Rome, but I don't think Mourinho would have joined Spurs in the first place without the promise of serious investment. Milinkovic-Savic's arrival will be bad news for Dele Alli, but potentially very good news for Tottenham, and he could relieve some of the goal-scoring expectations that rest on Harry Kane and Son Heung-min's shoulders. Watford. Josef Martinez. Watford have shown they have impressive scouting networks in South America, but I think they could do a lot worse than looking at a South American playing in North America to address some of their problems up front. Nigel Pearson's men have struggled for goals this season, and Troy Deeney isn't getting any younger. Josef Martinez has scored a ridiculous 90 goals in 103 games for Atlanta United, and whilst that form is unlikely to be transferable to the Premier League, it surely has to have caught one or two eyes. Former teammate Miguel Almiron's slow start to life at Newcastle, to him Martinez's former struggles in Serie A, may put some teams off. But Martinez is a different animal now, and with the right service, I think there's a decent chance that he would score goals in any league. West Ham. Nathaniel Clyne. At the age of 29, Nathaniel Clyne ought to be in the prime of his life and getting regular game time. Unfortunately for the Englishman, 2 long-term injuries have derailed his career in the last 3 years. A back injury in 2017 paved the way for Trent Alexander-Arnold, and in July 2019, Clyne ruptured his ACL in a pre-season friendly against Borussia Dortmund, effectively ending his Liverpool career. Once touted ahead of Kyle Walker as England's future right-back, Clyne is out of contract in the summer, but I still think he'll get another Premier League club. West Ham are no strangers to a free transfer and injury-prone signings, and given their need for a right-back, this one wouldn't surprise me. Wolves. Ruben Diaz. Wolves have a Portuguese goalkeeper, a Portuguese wing-back, Portuguese midfielders, wingers, and arguably even a Portuguese forward, depending on how you categorise Diogo Jota. But they don't yet have a Portuguese centre-back. Well, that's not quite true. They do have Roderick Miranda, but he's currently out on loan, so obviously isn't part of Nuno Espirito Santo's plans. Centre-back is somewhere I think Wolves could do with some improvement, or at least some added depth, and Ruben Diaz must at least be in the mix. He is contracted to Jorge Mendes' Geste Feuds agency, just like the likes of Diogo Jota, João Moutinho, and Ruben Neves, meaning a move to Wolves could be fairly straightforward. Currently contracted to Levante, the former Valencia man is a capable centre-back who can also slot in at right-back, and he'd help boost Wolves' ranks, potentially ahead of a second season of continental football. That is it for today's video. Thank you all for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments, along with any future video ideas you might have. Give us a like if you enjoyed the video, and obviously make sure that you are subscribed to HITC Sevens.